Welcome to the First 40 Sports Show with the Goon Squad. It's Ice Water and Puma on this episode. 60 days until the Rihanna halftime Super Bowl show. 2 months. 2 months. We're going to start off with college football. My man Caleb Williams wins the Heisman Trophy. And it wasn't really a surprise that he was going to win it. But it hurt my heart, Ice, to not see USC. I know Ohio State, you got the Ohio State Buckeye hoodie on, but it hurt my heart not to see him play one more time. But good thing is for us is he's a sophomore, because I think he could go in the league today and go play the way he demonstrated this season. But what are your thoughts about the finalists? You had Max Duggan, you had Ohio State C.J. Stroud, and you had Stetson Bennett from Georgia. What did you think about the candidates who just didn't get in, but they're in the playoffs?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you watch Caleb Williams, and we talked about just earlier in the year, from the standpoint when he made the decision to go to USC with Lincoln Riley, and Lincoln Riley basically he was his guy, right? Caleb Williams, was at Oklahoma, and people left because Caleb Williams got the opportunity. So once they left, they were trying to go out there and really build something at USC. And we talked about it earlier. They started bringing in a bunch of transfers. They brought in the wide receiver from Pittsburgh that was a graduate transfer. They brought a lot of people in, and they start getting better, gelling first couple games. Then start playing teams of substance. And he really showed out. He showed you what he was capable of. And he's young. Like you say, he's just a sophomore. But you could tell then by watching any of his games that, wow, this guy is special. And he showed you that at Oklahoma, even as a youngster, right? But now he's showing you again with even under another additional year under the tutelage of Lincoln Riley, his coach, what he can be and what he can do. So I think he was worthy. He was deserving of it because he had one of those years. It was really weird because a lot of people didn't know USC was going to be that good. Right. You kind of thought they would take them a year or so, but they really stepped up and they had them going. What can you say about Max Duggan, TCU, Cardiac Kids, right? Always down, and they love Max Duggan. I think he's a very good player, and he has that kind of Pete Rose mentality in football, where he's going to do everything he can to help his team win and slide and jumping around. So he was solid. C.J. Stroud has been consistent for Ohio State, and Stetson Bennett, number one team Georgia. How could they not put him in there? But all in all, I think Caleb Williams had him hands down. He just did some miraculous things when you watched him. And the way he started to run later in the season kind of just added to what he was doing. And I know you said you're sorry that they lost, but you got to get this. This is why I like Utah. Utah stepped up to the plate even before he got injured, and they showed you they had a game plan. I think literally Utah was just happened to be USC's kryptonite.
Yeah.
They kind of knew what they were doing, and they knew how to game plan for him, but it took nothing away from what the effort that Caleb Williams gave. And I think that's one of the main reasons why, despite losing that last game, that they felt clearly that he was the reason, he was the person that needed to be noted as the Heisman Trophy winner.
Listening to his speech at the Heisman Trophy ceremony, you get the feeling that he's going to use this as fuel for the fire to come back better next year. One of the lines that he said that I really caught that with is that he said, I may be standing here today, but you all get to play in the college football playoff. It's still sticking to him that, hey, I won this award, but I'm not finished, and I want to be where you are. Since I got this award under my belt, I want to be in the playoffs next year. And I think if he does get in the playoffs next year, win or lose or whatever, I think he's going to be an NFL quarterback in the draft that followed after his junior year.
No doubt. I agree with that 100%. It's kind of weird when you think about, remember when Vince Young didn't win it, we had Reggie Bush and Lambert there, and Reggie Bush won it. And then Vince Young was like, that's all right. You can have the Heisman. I'm going to win this national championship. So, and I think the guys really want to win. So I understand what he's saying there. He's a heck of an athlete. Hope he can stay healthy. And it sounds like he's really grounded from what he was mentioning about his parents and the family background. Mm-hmm. I just hope for his sake, he can stay grounded, not get caught up with some folks or whatnot, and just keep pushing along. Because you're right, he's very talented, and he could do a lot of great things before he moves on to the NFL.
Right. Some sad news in college football. Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach passed away at the age of 61. And I think it was an apparent heart attack. I was looking forward to him. I heard he wasn't feeling well, but you kind of hear that news and think, okay, well, he'll be back for the bowl games, because I think he was trying to go out to practices and things of that sort. But this is a sad note. A very colorful character in college football. And I didn't know until the reports came out that he's an attorney, but he never practiced. He's written books. He always came up with kind of funny kind of lines and scenarios and things. And this is a big loss for Mississippi State.
Yeah, I think it's a big loss for college football because he really was a player's coach. He expected a lot out of his players, but he also loved his players. So he's gonna give them all that he had. He wanted to do everything he could to keep them put them in the right atmosphere. And he was a grinder, man. You think about it, from what he did when he was at Washington State, right? So at Texas Tech, then of course at Mississippi State, he was a grinder. Kids love to play for him. He loved the game.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, he could have been a lawyer, but he chose to going to college football. He was a grinder. He liked to win, and he really did a good job with a lot of his players. So it's a huge loss for college football because it's not too many times that you can find coaches that are really in it for the right reasons. It's not always about the money. It's really about the kids having a good program and being in a good place, creating a great environment for your player.
Yeah, famous for the air raid offense. I mean, just lighting teams on fire. When you played one of his teams, one of his coach teams, he got that from BYU years ago when they used to just air it out. And he couldn't play for the team, but he spent a lot of time in the video room learning the offense and just transferred it to his coaching style. So rest in peace, and prayers to the family and friends and coaches and everybody who was impacted by this man. We're going to slide right on to college basketball. And I've been touting Houston for weeks, and Alabama got him. And we were texting back and forth during this game. And I didn't see an Achilles heels with Houston until at the Alabama game. And their Achilles heels is free throw shooting, which if they would have made those free throw shots, they would have won this game. But I kind of forgot, not really forgot, but Alabama's a really tournament tested team. I mean, they've been in the tournament for the last few years, and that's a team that does not go away, does not back down. They bring in players, they graduate players, and that program has emerged. Not only the football team, but the basketball team has emerged as one of the top teams in the country. So let's go through the AP Top 25. Purdue, a Big Ten team, jumps in the number one spot, and followed by Virginia is a good team. Virginia intrigues me a lot because they're always known for defense, but this team can score. This team can really score. I talked about this team a couple of weeks ago. I remember texting Black about UConn. UConn has a really good squad, followed by Alabama, number 4. Houston drops to number 5. Tennessee is a team to be reckoned with, followed by Texas, Kansas at number 8, Arizona, Arkansas, Baylor, Duke, Kentucky at 13. You have Indiana at 14, Gonzaga moving 3 spots up to the number 15 spot, and UCLA moving up to the number 16 spot. Mississippi State, Illinois dropping down 1, Auburn, number 19, Maryland. I think they had a game against Tennessee and dropped that game. And so they're at number 20, followed by TCU, Wisconsin, Ohio State moves 2 spots up, Virginia Tech, and Miami. Give me your eye test.
Yeah, a lot was going on. We talked about that, or we texted back and forth about Alabama and Houston. And the one thing about Alabama, Coach Oates over there has a full-fledged machine of athletes. They play smart. They learn, understand that they move the ball around. They play great defense. What I found ironic about that matchup with Houston is they were a perfect match for what Houston was trying to do. Normally, it's Houston that are the aggressors, and they wear you down with their defense, and they make games ugly. They have players that are very athletic. They also now, Houston has a couple great guards who can finally shoot the ball.
Yeah.
That was another Achilles heel for Houston over the years, that they weren't able to get good guard play. They have that now, but Coach Oates in Alabama actually were able to match them, and they hit their free throws. It was ironic because I think I was texting back to you. I said one of the guys for Houston, when I watched the guy, he was all athletic and cock diesel type individual, looked like Larry Michaud back in the day. And Larry Michaud had a lot of he had a lot of issues shooting free throws.
Yeah.
This is deja vu. So I watched the game, but no, Alabama and Houston, two great teams that are definitely going to be worthwhile watching down the line. I'm excited because with all of these games going on, we have some great matchups coming up. I know, for instance, like we have, as you mentioned, Virginia will face Houston
on Saturday. Yeah.
Right. UConn is going to face Butler. Butler has a decent team with that Mata back off on the coaching on the sidelines. Alabama plays Gonzaga. I really want to see that game.
Yeah.
Tennessee and Arizona meet. Kansas and Indiana. Indiana's been up and down. Kansas trying to get back on track. Kentucky versus UCLA coming up pretty soon. Maryland is playing UCLA also. And last but not least, on Saturday, the team that's not in the top 25, Ohio State versus North Carolina.
Yeah. I'm going to give Ohio State the nod on that one. But North Carolina did play well in their last game. I did watch them in their last game. They did play well. They look like they're playing with a lot more purpose. But, yeah, I'm going to give the nod on Ohio State on that. I got to give the nod on Ohio State.
I hear you.
Even though they're playing at North Carolina.
I hear you, Tar Heel.
I'm a realistic Tar Heel fan. I am looking forward to some good games. I'm looking forward to the watching Texas again. I love the way they play. Baylor seems to be trying to get out of their funk and play really well. They're going to be playing Washington State. Duke is going to be playing. Duke is a very solid team. I have to admit it. I know that's my pop's favorite team, and I'm a Carolina fan, so I should not be saying anything good about Duke. But Duke is playing really, really well, and they're going to be playing in the ACC conference against Wake Forest. So I'm looking forward to that. But the team that I really like watching play is UCLA, and the other team I like to watch play because I'm in Big Ten country is Indiana. That coach has them playing really well. These guys, you got to win in Indiana. That's pretty much the only, basketball team that people follow in Indiana, other than the Pacers if they're doing well. But Indiana, University of Indiana, the Hoosiers, that's what they kind of pinpoint and focus on. But he has those guys playing. It's almost like a pro-style way of playing in college basketball. He used to coach in the NBA. So I can see how he's kind of trying to elevate that team to another level, giving them some pro insight and having them playing kind of a pro style offense and defense.
Yeah, they're actually one of the most physical basketball teams you'll see across the country. They always give Ohio State trouble because last year Ohio State just didn't have that physicality, and they found ways to get things done. One of the concerns for me about Indiana, and I really like them, is they need great guard play. If they can get a couple guards or somebody that can lead that team, put the big fellas where they need to be, they're going to be dynamic. But I think the reason why they lose against some maybe better teams or a little upper echelon teams, or top tier teams, is because they don't have the guard play that they need. And they end up looking around like, oh my God, who's going to save us? They have the talent. They're talented all the way around. They're going to have to find a way to develop a nice guard for somebody to lead that team. If they do that, they're going to be very difficult to beat.
And Purdue, Boilermakers, do not sleep on Davidson this weekend. They are giant killers. This is the type of team that they want to build their resume for March Madness, and you're just the team that they can kind of tie up and beat. Do not look at that as a kind of walkover. This may be a trap game before you get to your next game. So beware of that. Let's go to the NBA. There was some bad news in the NBA, but I want to go to the teams first because we lost a great one in the coach Paul Silas. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Boston is still leading. They took it on the chin against Golden State, but Golden State is still not really where they should be. Their away record is atrocious. And so you have Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, New York in that number 6 spot. Atlanta at the number 7 spot and Indiana at the number 8 spot. Really worried about Toronto, Miami, and Chicago. Hoping that Chicago gets a lot of the Lonzo Ball back. So because I felt like when he was in the mix, he really had that team going, but they're still kind of banged up a little bit. Of course, you have Washington at number 12 spot, Orlando, Charlotte, and Detroit bringing up the rear. In the West, you have New Orleans. That's what I said, New Orleans. And they kind of spanked, not kind of, but spanked Phoenix, who was that number 1 spot for a while. They've been suffering from injuries, but they are playing like they ain't no punks. They don't care who is there. Zion is playing out of his mind. I'm like, oh my God. Followed by Memphis. The younger teams are taking over. Mm-hmm. You have Denver, Phoenix, Portland, the LA Clippers at number 6, Sacramento at number 7, Utah, number 8. And you have the bottom feeders. You have teams like the Lakers, you got Golden State, you got Minnesota. Those are the teams that you expect to be up there with the Clippers and all that. But you got the younger guys, the younger talent in the NBA. And I'm trying to figure out, what is ESPN going to do and TNT going to do to kind of switch these games to get rid of the teams that they thought were going to be good this season and put some of these newer teams in so we can watch them play?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think part of it, though, is everything is about the All-Star break, right? We got to see how that get to the All-Star break, and they're getting very close. But it's been some great basketball. I'm glad to see some of the younger teams with younger rosters moving up, taking care of business. In the East, Boston is Boston. They're not stepping off that gas pedal at all. Milwaukee is just trying to get things together, right? Since they're coming out with a lot of injuries, they're still looking like trying to make some moves. So we're talking about maybe trying to make a move for the disgruntled forward from Phoenix, trying to bring him in the fray. But I'm not sure if they're ready for that. Crowder. They're talking about making a trade for Crowder, but they may not be doing that. Cleveland has moved back up to the number 3 spot. Told you before, watch out for Brooklyn. Brooklyn is in the 4th spot, 8-2 in their last 10. Very dangerous. Philadelphia is still hanging on, kind of waiting on Harden to get everything together. And right. The Knicks, surprisingly, is 6. This is a big surprise to give you that too. Moving over to the West, Zion and company is 8-2 in their last 10. Number 1 spot. Memphis, number 2. Awesome with that too. Denver in the 3rd slot. Thought they would be up a little bit higher, but we're still playing with house money. And Phoenix is at 4. Portland's around. That surprises me a little bit. Clippers, like, even with Kawhi's not here, most of the time, we still gonna find a way. But I want to see how it all plays out. Right now, it's still early, but one team will win one game, and like Milwaukee will beat somebody, and then or the Lakers will beat Milwaukee, and then they'll come back around and lose to another team. Again, with the Lakers, I'm literally writing an article about this. You can no longer blame Russell Westbrook what's happening.
No, you can't. You can't.
He's coming out the bench. He's playing his role, doing everything you asked. Now you need to look inside and see who else can move up or make some decisions as to how they can get back to respectability.
A buddy of mine told me to say on the show, and I kind of thought of it too, and we've been talking about the show too, is that LeBron needs to concentrate on being a player instead of a coach. That's why the Lakers are in the situation they're in now, because he felt like LeBron made all those moves or was suggesting all those moves to get certain players there. And it probably cost the Lakers maybe not making the playoffs this year. One of the things, a number of things that I want to mention about the NBA, some of the surprises of teams that I thought Dallas would be much better this year. I just took for granted that Golden State would be up there. And I took for granted that Minnesota, after the season they had last year, would be much better than they are this year. I really thought Toronto would be really at the top in the 1, 2, 3 position in the East. Miami, I've kind of been disappointed with how they're playing, and they're playing like they're kind of limping through the season. But you said again, in the All-Star break, we'll see who's who, because usually teams start making runs during the All-Star break. But I'm seeing some of these teams that aren't the bottom feeders, it may not be enough after the All-Star break to make a run, because I don't see some of the teams that are leading the league now or leading in their conference or division now just letting up because it's the All-Star break.
No, I agree with that 100%. But like you said, though, a lot of those teams that you mentioned that are down at the bottom, some of the veteran teams, they had the experience. So the question is, like you said, there's going to have to be consistency by some of these younger teams, right? Is New Orleans going to be able to hang on and be in the number one seed? There are going to be some moves back and forth, but we'll see. And we know if you can, with the Lakers, if Anthony Davis can stay healthy and LeBron can play and they get some things moving along, like they showed you the other night when they beat Milwaukee, they can win some games. And when I'm not mad at your buddy, and we can agree to disagree, but to just throw that all on LeBron because everybody said LeBron's making moves, there's a reason why you have a general manager, right? So if he is allowed to make moves or making suggestions, then what does that say about your general manager and your ownership? Because I said from the beginning, told you guys that when they went out and acquired Russell Westbrook, and one of the first things I said before, and he's thriving coming off the bench, he should have been coming off the bench from the beginning. When they met him in the Hamptons and they're talking about making a move to pick him up, they should have said, hey, look, before our chemistry effect, we're going to have you come off the bench.
So I don't think he would have came if that was the case.
But then you do it. You just say it, though. You say it. If he don't come, he don't come. You ain't no better anyway. So maybe you could have done something else. Maybe you could have got a DeRozan. But you put that on the table. I'm just saying, why does it take a year and a half, almost 2 years later, for you finally to tell him he's going to be on the bench?
Yeah, I agree with that too. And one of the things about the game last night with the Lakers and losing in overtime, and they said that in overtime, AD only touched the ball one time. I blame that on AD. If you're a dog, you're a dog. You get down in that post, you demand that ball, so you can get your team to win. So I can't put everything on LeBron, just like you said. I can't put, how players are playing. But if you only touch the ball one time, that's your fault. Get yourself in position to score. Get yourself in a position. Get in that huddle and like, I want the ball. I can get a high percentage shot. That just, to me, and maybe you'll disagree with it, that shows me the lack of dog in him as far as a player who really wants to win in this league.
I mean, I can see that where you say that. But the other part I want to throw in there is, what about Darvin Ham?
Yeah.
See, I think that's the other part. When you have two major guys, okay, maybe three, you throw Westbrook coming off the bench, whoever else you want to throw in there. You have Anthony Davis, you have LeBron James. They are the centerpieces, the cornerstones for this team, right? So if I'm the coach, just like everybody else is playing off of them. I don't need some young guy because you open, chucking it up. It's almost like when the guard Poole was with Golden State last year. When they were hurt the year before, he was shooting all these shots, but then he had to learn how to play the veterans. So your role is no longer to be a scorer or a shooter. You have to recognize what your strengths are. And your strengths for the Lakers right now have been and will always be until they leave out is going to be Anthony Davis and also LeBron James, even though he's older. So I kind of put some of that on the coach Darvin Ham too.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's how it runs. And if you can't understand that, then we need to move on and get you out of here. He was man enough to step up and was not afraid to tell Westbrook you need to come off the bench. That's great. Now you need to move forward with putting pieces in place instead of having guys just shooting jumpers because they think they're open. If you're trying to win, there has to be structure where you defer to the cornerstones or the best players on your team.
Yeah, because when I think about players, money players, where and I'm old school, I'll admit that, where, you had the Magic Johnson and the Byron Scotts and all those other guys, but when it was money time to win the ball, who got the ball down on the post? It was Jabbar. He's like, hey, give me the ball. Give me the ball every time down the court if you want to win. So you may not see, you could probably say Jabbar was maybe dogging it or resting up in the third, but when it was money time, it was time to win. You had those guys saying, okay, he has to get the ball. He has to get the ball every time, and everything comes through him. And so I understand LeBron is the leader of the team. But when you have LeBron taking a three-pointer to try to win the game, I don't think that's going to happen too often. When you can get a high percentage shot, work that guy in the offense, get folks into foul trouble. If I'm, you can look at Shaq. Some people aren't fans of Shaq. But when Shaq said, hey, give me the ball. I want the ball down low so I can ensure that we can get a higher percentage shot. And so I just don't see that dog in him. And, they need that dog in him to actually come out from where they are and to try to make a run for the playoffs.
No, I agree with that 100%. But also, like I said, I'm gonna throw that back on the bench because how many years was Shaq and Kobe together and they couldn't win?
Right.
Phil Jackson comes over, flashes the rings, they buy into what he's doing, then they win championship.
Yeah.
So you had to have that mentality, and that's where Darvin Ham, whoever's over there, needs to step up and go. You had to command respect. Darvin Ham played in the league a long time. I think LeBron respects him, but you also just can't go. And I'm not saying he's doing this, but you got to find a way to make this work for the pieces that you have. You have a lot of younger guys over there trying to shoot the ball, and that's fine. But you got to be honest about this and go, how can we use the current group that we have to win ball games? Because the league is tough. You mentioned you rolled off a lot of different names and not a young, hungry teams. So therefore, they're going to be coming for the Lakers.
Yeah.
It's the same reason now why everybody's shocked about Golden State. But why are you shocked?
Yeah.
They weren't supposed to win last year. They found a way. Now it's like, we're older. We may not be able to do the same thing. Steph Curry is not a young pup anymore. It takes time. So sometimes you make a run and then you off. So I don't know. I just see it like that from a standpoint. There's not too many teams now the way that the game is played where you're going to see real just dominant teams.
Right.
One dominant team winning all the championships.
And this is good for basketball and sports in general. Sad news in the NBA. We mentioned earlier, Paul Silas, 3-time NBA champion, longtime coach, passes away at 79. And he was one of those guys that you really didn't hear too much about, but a lot of players were influenced by him. It was LeBron's first coach. I mean, I think he coached Jordan at one particular point with the Charlotte Hornets. What can you tell us about Paul Silas? Because I know you study the game and you know a lot more about Paul Silas than I do.
Yeah, well, Paul Silas, I mean, even as a player, was old school, right? He wasn't the greatest player in the world, but he was serviceable. He played his position real well, played defense, and he played his what he did well. And I think he took that on to even become a better coach, perhaps, than he was a player, because of the factor that he understood the game, he understood where you're supposed to be. Being LeBron's first coach, which I thought was a major mistake, Cleveland even making the change from Paul Silas, because he was literally teaching LeBron how the right way was to play the game. And LeBron will tell you that from the standpoint where you take an 18-year-old kid and you throw him in the mix in Cleveland, expect him to be the Messiah and the guy that's going to, ring the bell and guide the team. You're going to need an old school veteran coach to say, hey, all right, now here's the situation, blah, blah, blah. And LeBron did that. So Paul Silas did that at a lot of different places that he was at. Sometimes he went to certain places and he didn't have the personnel or the talent to possibly win. But definitely in Cleveland he did. Like I said, I think they made a major mistake by getting rid of him too early, thinking something else was going to happen, because LeBron was LeBron. But the overall classy guy, straight up dude, from the old school, and quality gentleman, somebody that you don't go, oh, Paul Silas is my greatest of all time. You're not going to say that, but you're going to say he's respectable, played the game hard, old school, and he also was one hell of a coach. Rest in peace, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. He took teams to the playoffs. He was an all-star, and it just seems like he just had the respect of just the whole league. And that tells you a lot more. He might not have been the superstar player that we look for, but when you get respected by coaches, players, franchises, you've done some great work, and rest in peace and peaceful journey to you, sir. Next, we have up the World Cup. Now, you and I last week talked about how we were looking forward to Brazil and Portugal in the final for the World Cup. Now, when Brazil was getting their butt beat, you were texting me back and forth talking about, hey, go home, blah, 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 blah. But then Portugal the next day gets beat. And so now we're looking at Argentina and France, the defending champion in the World Cup, which should be a great World Cup coming up this Sunday. And so what are your thoughts about the World Cup? I know you were texting me all day about it. What are your thoughts about this, man?
Well, I mean, granted, yeah, Portugal lost with Ronaldo lost. I still blame the coach, because how the hell you going to have a Hall of Famer sitting on the outside, coming off the bench when you down? Soon as they went down one goal, he should have been putting him in the game. And then all of a sudden you want him to red to save the team. Man, please. Anyway, I don't get that. I don't care if you're mad at him. What is he there for? What is he there for? He played the whole damn game. Come on, it's Ronaldo, bro. Anyway, but today it was bizarre because you had what was it? France and
Morocco.
Morocco was probably the underdog of the whole tournament, and they gave it all that they had. I think today Morocco was just beaten by a better team. I didn't know France was that good. I mean, they're defending champions.
Yeah.
I looked at France today. I was like, and I know Morocco was the last African nation, but Morocco was coming on. But France,
yeah, France. I told you last week, because when we talked about Portugal getting into the finals, I'm like, don't sleep on France. And this is reminiscent of what they did the last time we were sitting here at the World Cup.
Yeah, what I find ironic is in the way that Argentina beat Croatia. I mean, they just manhandled because they were just like the better team. But this matchup between Argentina and France, I really like it because you got Messi trying to bring these young guys up or these guys up, and he's going to try to elevate them, and they've been playing real well. But you got France. France is no joke. France has a swagger, and I like that. I like watching France because this is my first time watching them prior to the telecast. And the one thing I noticed about France is they're not afraid to mix it up. They're a very physical team. And the one thing I really like about France, they're not waiting. They're trying to score.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you don't shoot, you can't score. I don't know how many times throughout this World Cup I watched Love of America, but the United States holding the ball, trying to wait on something. What the hell are you waiting on? This is what we're going to overtime? Shoot. So France is all that. They are so, you can tell that they're so, watching them play Morocco, they were just better. And you can tell they were better from the standpoint of they had chemistry. They were not waiting. They took advantage of situations and they were attacking. So I will be very, very excited to see the defending champions in France versus Messi in Argentina. I think it's going to be one hell of a game. So I'm looking forward to that on Sunday.
Yeah, they take the character of Mbappe. His character is aggressive, going after it, scoring the ball. And so you've been seeing it. I've seen him in other teams do the same thing. He is a force to be reckoned with, and they take his personality. And so it's like my pop always says, don't play not to lose, play to win. Always play to win. And so that's what France does. My thing here, and people are going to claim I'm a Messi hater, but it's like games like this is usually when he disappears. Just big games like this. In my experience watching him, he just disappears. So great win against Croatia, but he can't disappear in this game. They expect Argentina to win because France is not going to stop coming.
No, I agree with that 100%. But I think that's part of it where Messi right now is at that point where he's going to be like the center of the attraction, hopefully to raise the level of play from the other guys around him. But France is so, they're so skilled and they have so much talent spread across the team that you never know where they might get a goal from. And I'm sitting there going and then they have that, like, for instance, what was it? They brought the younger guy in today. I can't even think of his name. Things like he wasn't even supposed to play, but they brought him in to substitute, and he's the one that ended up getting the second goal to kind of secure things for them. He wasn't even supposed to schedule to be in the game. He come right in, go. So, yeah, France is going to be a handful. I'm looking forward to the final.
Just when you think things would cool down on the MLB hot plate, it doesn't. Syndergaard to the Dodgers, and so Carlos Carrera, he signs with the San Francisco Giants, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy. It makes you wish that baseball season was starting right away with all these different trades and all these acquisitions in baseball, because you want to see how they fit in with the new teams and what the new teams do with these new acquisitions and trades.
Yeah, no doubt. I guess the one thing for me is kind of bizarre. You mentioned about Correa going to send to the Giants. 13 years, $350 million for a shortstop.
Yeah,
crazy. Then you turn back around with Xavier Bogaerts. Signs with the Padres, of course. 11 years, $280 million. It's like a lot of people were thinking, though, that Correa, there might have been a couple other better talented shortstops than he. But then one of the things they said, they think that somebody else might outperform him because Correa is going to San Francisco. And one of the things we know about San Francisco, even though he's only 28 years old, Correa is, with their ballpark, it is a hitter's nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't hit a lot of home runs out of there. Probably going to affect his batting average. Also going to affect the amount of home runs that he has. So he may not be the player that they wanted to have, except defensively, that they wanted to have offensively because of the park that he's going to be playing in. It's a lot of money, man.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I'm trying to figure out how baseball generates all this cash, man, because it's like, it's a lot of money for like 13 years. And, when Judge got his deal for 9 years, 360 million, it's like, where are they pulling all this cash? Is it money they see in the future they're getting or what, man? Because it's like, this is a lot of money for a lot of players.
Yeah, well, you know what they end up doing there too is normally by the time the contract's up, they make some concessions and they cut back on certain things. Sometimes they even buy them out for like 75% when things don't work out. But what I'm really surprised about is, growing up, we might see a guy to get a 5-year contract, or if he did get a 10-year deal. But in modern day times, the way that baseball is and the way it's been in and out, the most I thought I would ever be seeing from the contract length might be 6 years. 13 years, that's some 1970 stuff, bro.
Yeah.
Andy Messersmith and all that, you know what I'm saying? Or, Ron, Ron Guidry, or, somebody to the fact with these superhuman pitchers, the Vita Blues and the Riley Fingers, guys getting all this crazy money, and Ron Guidry getting all this money based on their talent. So that's what it was back then. But to see this money being floated around like this is just, it blows me away, especially for baseball.
I'm sorry, Pop, because Pop told me a long time ago, instead of playing football or basketball, play baseball, you make more money. And he was right. I should have stuck with baseball. Questions from the squad. I asked your first question, man.
Yeah, I guess my question is, with college football on the way that it's horizons, I was telling somebody else before, do you think finally, now that the playoff is on the horizon very soon, that the teams that don't make it like the Alabamas this year and so many others that don't make the playoffs will finally stop complaining now that we have 12 slots, that maybe the 12 best teams can be there. So even if you lose 3 games and you're one of the best 12 teams, even though you may not win your conference, you can still get in. So my question to you is, do you think it would finally stop all of the nagging and complaining about why my team should be in, or you think you're just going to expand the amount of complainers because now everybody think they should be in?
I think both. I think teams, I don't care how many teams you put in the playoffs, there are always going to be some teams that say we were better or we beat them, whoever's in the top 12. But I think it will stop Alabama and Clemson from complaining because they know that their programs are going to be in the top 12. So, yeah, it will stop them from complaining because it was nothing sadder this season. Saban, the night before the playoffs were being announced, trying to politic his way into the playoffs. And it's like, dude, there's no way you're getting in the playoffs this year. And so you need to get off television. I mean, ESPN had him on TV interviewing him, and he's trying to state his case. And I could see people who don't like Alabama just laughing, like, look at him begging, trying to get in the playoffs. Because, when you get in the playoffs, you get some big fat checks as a coach. Mm-hmm. Big fat checks. And so they won't be getting those checks this year. And so that's why he was politicking. But I don't care how many teams, you put in, there are always going to be some teams who say we should have got in. But I commend the NCAA football college playoff system, or whoever put that together, of doing that because it gives more teams opportunities. To come in there and play for a national championship. And who knows, it may be the 12th team one day who wins the championship. We never know.
Yeah, plus too, the factor that I think it was something that at first I was kind of against it, expanding. I was thinking maybe 8, but 12 makes sense now because we were watching super conferences being built before our very eyes.
Yeah.
When you see UCLA and USC jumping into the Big Ten, what is it? Oklahoma and Texas going over to the SEC.
Oklahoma and Texas, yeah.
So
SEC.
Yeah, so you seeing these other things that are transpiring. So you see these things happening, which is one of the reasons why I don't think Notre Dame wants to join the Big Ten, because if you're only the seventh best team in football in the Big Ten, you want a fair shot. So therefore, even if you put USC, UCLA, and USC in the same division, there's so many teams only in one conference. So in order to make it right, because there might be a team worthy of finishing third, like a Penn State, or fourth in the Big Ten. And if they're worthy better than some of the other teams in the country with a decent record, then everybody's always said they want the best teams in, you're about to get them. Yeah. So now these teams can get in, even if they finish third in their conference, especially if they're a better team, a la Alabama.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame is going to scurry their butt right into the ACC, because I think that's for them, it's probably the best conference that they get a chance to be in the top, in the top teams. And the ACC is not a pushover conference. It's going to be a power conference. And I can see them kind of wanting to compete with Clemson and North Carolina and Florida State. It only makes sense. You got a rivalry with Florida State, you can keep the rivalry with USC. But I think in order for them to get in this playoff system, because I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was saying, the only reason why they're doing the 12 because it gives Notre Dame a chance to get into a playoffs where, people travel and spend money. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that too. But they got to be in a power conference to play power teams in order to do that. So I can see them. I wouldn't be surprised to go to the ACC. I agree with you. We've been saying that. You said that a few weeks ago. They're not going to the Big Ten. They even though it makes sense, they're in the area. I think, and I'll say this, and I hope every Notre Dame fan and you all are afraid to go to the Big Ten because you can't compete. You're afraid to do it. So you will go to a conference that's really not one of the higher conferences in football, the ACC, because you only have 1, 2, or 3 teams in that conference, but you are afraid to go to the Big Ten. I dare you to go to the Big Ten. If you do, I will shut my mouth about Notre Dame football, but I think y'all are afraid to go to the Big Ten. My question, LBJ is not signed yet, and the Dallas Cowboys and Giants backed off of him and saying, you know what, this guy is, he's kind of misreading his value in this league. What are your thoughts on this?
Man, look. When I saw that on the list, I just all I could do is start laughing. It might have been cute early on, but OBJ really put his foot in his mouth, and really, I think was his own worst enemy. He started making these rounds, right, going to Dallas, to the Giants, and somewhere else, and went to Dallas, and they, basically took him to the Mavs game, showed him a great time, and then he started running his mouth. And part of it that he was saying allegedly is the fact that I could possibly be ready by this certain time, but he really was saying that I don't see why I need to play in the regular season. I just want to play in the postseason.
Yeah.
And it's like, who in the hell gonna pay you money so you can play in the playoffs? The only team that might have done it before was the Rams, but he got mad at them because allegedly he wasn't getting the amount of money he thought he was worth. So then you want to go down to Dallas and say, oh, I know Jerry Jones gonna hook me up. But then you start telling guys here in the back room, and it's spilling out because people talk, that you just want to play. This year you only want to play in the postseason. You want us to give you a bunch of money. Then not only that, you want a larger extended contract. Jerry Jones is like, I like you, but you got to kick rocks. I'm gonna go ahead and get this T.Y. Hilton. He want to play. So I get it. So there's nothing to take away from the talent of OBJ, but 2 things real quick. We don't know, is he healthy?
I don't know. I'm thinking they interviewed him, brought him in, and realized he's not really healthy enough to come out here and help us.
But he didn't work. That's the other part. He didn't work out for the teams. He didn't work out for them. So therefore, you just want them to give you money. He said, I think I can be back the second round of the playoffs. What? Who's going to pay for that? A team that's trying to go to the Super Bowl. And then my biggest thing with him was, particularly when you look at Dallas, can you help Dallas get to the Super Bowl? Can you? Why would somebody pay you? They're not desperate. So you pick up T.Y. Hilton. We'll see what happens there. I'm not sure. But why would you pay a bunch of money just because you think you're great? And I really think he did himself a disservice. 2 things, again, by saying what he thought he was worth, which was outlandish because he hasn't played football in a year. And the second thing is the factor that he said he wouldn't be available to like The postseason. Owners are crazy, but they're not stupid.
I think you're right. He did put his foot in his mouth. And I know his boy was trying to get him over there at Buffalo. And, I did not like the idea when the Giants kind of put their hat in the ring, like, yeah, you can come on back home. I did not like that idea at all. It's almost like he wants the rewards, but he doesn't want to put the work in for the rewards. He wants to be the flash and dash in the playoffs. This is his way of getting in the playoffs without going through the regular season and not putting in the work and not gaining the trust of your teammates and your team, and wants to, bask in the glory of being another Super Bowl champion. And it doesn't work that way. I think people can see through that. Another thing I think is wrong. I think his rehab, I'm not sure how his rehab has gone. I'm not sure if he's really ready. And I think these teams saw right through it and went, nah, this is too much of a risk for us to take, because who knows? He may get hurt again in the playoffs, and then what do you do there? So, I think he really kind of, blew his wad, maybe take the rest of the year off, rehab, try out for a team next year to see whether or not you can get any takers. But I think he really kind of overstretched what he was able to do and how he was able to contribute to the team that wants him. Because if he was worth anything, believe you me, the Rams would have him in the fold, waiting for him to get ready so they could put him back on the field. That told me a lot when the Rams did not re-sign him, and they're showing no interest in him. That tells me a lot. And I think other people see that too.
No doubt. I mean, I think that's where it comes down to it, where, like I said, the proof is in the pudding. You got to be able to show teams that you're able to play and get out there and perform. Because otherwise, just because it's based on your name, that does no good. That does no good. You got to be able to perform on the field, and that's the main thing.
All right. Any last second shots?
Kudos to the Golden State Warriors franchise. They retired the jersey number 6 in honor of Bill Russell. That says a lot about the team as a franchise. If you remember, the Warriors were in Philadelphia prior to coming to Golden State, old school, when Bill Russell was really putting work in against Will Chamberlain and whatnot. So kudos to them for that. One hell of a feat. Didn't have to do that. I mean, they were kind of doing the thing with Jordan with 23 when, they had his number on certain places. But for Golden State to step up and go, this man was that much of an icon, not just as an athlete, but an icon and a man in general. Kudos. I love that. Thank you.
I sent Ice and Black a video I saw on TikTok recently about how pro basketball and pro football are considered sports entertainment. So that means that if they wanted to rig games, they were in their rights to do it. Now, I always suspected this, but evidence every year comes out where this is happening. I'm not going to say I believe it wholeheartedly and with full throttle, but it just makes me think about some of the key games that I've been watching in my whole lifetime in sports, especially in the NBA and in the NFL, where I just had to say, so I'm going to be watching this very, very carefully. Because when I watched the game this week with the Las Vegas Raiders, who had the game beat, and you had Baker Mayfield come back and win a game with 13 points down with 3 minutes left to go. It just makes you scratch your head sometimes. It just makes you scratch your head. I'm not saying I believe, but things like that make me kind of wonder. We'll be back next week.
Get Baker his flowers, man. Get off of that. Let Baker have his